Hey everybody, what's up? My name's Nick. Today I'm going to be walking you through my song Annapolis. I'm going to be going through basically what the song is about. I'm going to go into writing the song, recording a demo, recording the actual song. I'm going to try to get into the mixing of some of the song. Everything from drums to vocals to percussion to mixing and mastering. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave timestamps in the video, so you can skip through the video and you can pick a timestamp that you're interested in watching and learning about. So yeah, let's get right into it. So if you haven't heard my song yet, feel free to give it a listen. I think it'll provide some more perspective on what I'm going to walk you through. But yeah, this is the track. So the song Annapolis is really just about, it's about Annapolis, Maryland, and my time in Annapolis. I have a song called Winchester, and I kind of wanted to do something similar with that. The song started off on the acoustic guitar, and I essentially just completed the song, just acoustic guitar and vocals only. I came up with the main acoustic riff, and then I essentially added lyrics over top of that. So something like this. And yeah, that's typically how I write my songs, is I'll write the acoustic guitar parts first, and then I'll go back over and I'll add lyrics to it. So yeah. So moving on, the approach I take for recording and trying to get a demo fleshed out inside of my DAW is I will typically just do a singing and acoustic guitar one take, and I'll do it to a metronome. So there's drums, but let me see if I can turn those off. So I'll just record to a click track. It's a rough take. It's just for me to essentially basically just map out the song on a timeline. So you can see here I have these markers. These markers are where it's how the song is divided. So I've got marker 1, which starts my intro. Yeah. Verse 1 starts here. I didn't think. Pre-chorus. Back when we were chorus, etc. So this just kind of allows me to map out the track and kind of see how it's all going to be placed out on a timeline. So typically going from there, what I'll do is I'll start to put the drums over top of the rough take. So let's go ahead and look at the drums. The drums for this are all done on a MIDI keyboard. So what I'll do is I'll actually play the finger drums. And what I'll do is I'll start with the kick and the snare. So let's see, I've got kick and snare here. So I'll basically go over the song with the acoustic guitar, and I'll add those in. So I'll do that. I'll play that for the whole song, and then I'll go back through and I'll do the same thing for the hi-hats and the cymbals, which you can see here. It's pretty quiet right now, but then I'll go back through and I'll actually add some tom fills here and there, so you can see here. And then collectively what you have is the drums. So pretty cool. Doing the drums first with the rough take guitars allows me to take the application of bass guitar a little bit more seriously. So once I've seen through the drums, and going through a lot of these drums takes some time because when I play them on the keyboard, it's not perfect. So I'll go back through and add ghost notes here and be a little bit more specific and intentional about what drum notes are playing. And you can see the change in the colors is the velocity. So how hard is that hitting? So these ones that are a little bit darker are harder. And you can see velocity is at 95. And then the next one is velocity 43, which is almost half of it. And it's a lot softer of a hit. So it kind of gives it a little bit more human feeling to it. Additionally, I don't actually snap a lot of my drums to the grid exactly. I'll usually just like kind of move them around like slightly before or slightly after. Again, just to kind of keep it a little bit more real feeling. Cool. So once I have the drums in place, I can then move on to the bass guitar. So the bass guitar sounds like this. We'll start at the chorus. That you said. So pretty cool if we add drums in there. So it's important for me to have the bass guitar and the drums really lined up and really in sync with one another, just because they're providing that kind of low end and rhythmic element to the song. The song would sound a little weird if I did bass guitar first and then put drums on top, or if I did the real guitar first and then put bass guitar. So I typically always start all my songs with fake guitar and singing at the same time, real drums, real bass, and then I'll go back over and I'll put in real acoustic guitars. So let's take a listen to the real guitars. And looking at this here, we can see that there's a number of different acoustic guitar tracks. So these acoustic guitar tracks are all within the same folder, acoustic guitars. So my main two acoustic guitars are there's one on the left channel that's panned slightly to the left, and then there's one on the right that's panned slightly to the right. So if we solo the one on the right, it's playing out of the right ear, and then the one on the left, it's playing out of the left. Collectively, gives it a little bit more of a full sound. And the important thing to note here is that I didn't just copy and paste and put this into the right channel. I actually had to re-record the guitar for both takes. Because if you copy and paste, it essentially just makes it a mono track, and you can't tell the stereo directional image of the acoustic guitars. So I always start with a main acoustic guitar track, and then what I'll go back through and do later is add some accessory acoustic guitars. So if we start here at the beginning, we can hear that there's an accessory acoustic guitar pinned to the left. So we essentially have 3 acoustic guitars going at the same time in the intro. And you can see that kind of fades out there. And then a similar situation here. With my brothers, take me. I knew those days ago. Yeah, I think it's really important to add some element of accessory acoustic guitar, and I've done the same thing here at the end of the song. And I add that intro accessory guitar back at the end. Yeah. Additionally, as far as the acoustic guitars go, I have an additional additional acoustic guitar in the chorus here.
Stuck in a loop.
Sorry, there's some sirens going on in the background, but the idea here is just to play the same thing in the chorus a third time to add a little bit more beef and fullness for the acoustic guitars in the chorus, because you want your choruses to sound a little bit larger than the rest of the track and provide a little bit more depth and image to the track at its loudest and its loudest parts, really.
Finally fell asleep. Oh, I was just a kid.
Yep. So those are the acoustic guitars. Taking a look at it from kind of a mixing and engineering perspective, there's this concept of busing and essentially taking multiple tracks and assigning them to a group and then applying effects on the entire group itself. So the first thing I always do is create each individual track and then basically say, assign it to be, send it to this bus, assign it to this group. That way I have the option of, number one, assigning individual effects on the track itself, and then number two, assigning effects on the grouping. So here our grouping is bus 7. So if we go over here to bus 7, we can see that I've called this bus acoustic guitars. And if we were to solo it, all of our acoustic guitars are going out to this group or to this bus. So starting at the individual level, so starting at the individual track or a track that's within a group, what I'll always do is I'll add some EQ right off the bat. So this is kind of the first effect that the acoustic guitar is going through. And I'm really just taking out a lot of the bassy low end of the acoustic guitar. Really, with acoustic guitars, you don't need a whole lot of bass to it. A bass guitar can provide that, but also an acoustic guitar doesn't really create frequencies that go below this threshold. Additionally, sometimes what people do is they'll do the same thing for the high end, where they will kind of like cut out some high end or something like this. I typically keep all my high end. I think it sounds nice and sparkly. So let's take a listen. So let's take a listen to this acoustic guitar, and we'll put a high end filter on it. So you can see when there's no filter on it, you get more of that pick attack. And when I have a filter on it, you don't get a lot of the high end of the acoustic. The second thing that I always do with acoustic guitars is some amount of compression. So imagine you have these waveforms like this, and there's these peaks and spikes. Compression essentially makes all of these peaks and spikes the exact same height. So, not one part of the track is a lot louder than another part of the recording. And you can see exactly how the compressor is working here. So this is essentially how many decibels or how much it's lowering the volume of the peaks. Compression is something that's kind of difficult to really hear right off the bat, but when you apply compression to all of your tracks individually and in groupings and buses, over time it sounds a lot more clean, and yeah. So after the compression, what I'll do is I'll add even more compression. And then finally, I use this plugin called Sketch Cassette, and it kind of provides a more, it's almost like running your microphone through a cassette tape or a tape machine, and it provides a lot of saturation and warmth, and technically makes the track a little bit of lower quality almost. It adds kind of a more authentic feeling to it. So, example, if we turn this up all the way. So it adds just kind of an interesting texture to the track itself. So I handle all my acoustic guitars the same way, relatively the same way. I always start out with the EQ, then I'll go into compression, then I'll add some sort of tape saturation to them, and then I'll send them out to their main group or their main bus. So we can go over here to bus 7, and on my screen on the bottom, all of my acoustic guitars are being sent out to bus 7. So right off the bat, what I'm doing is I'm adding compression to all of the acoustic guitars together. So I'm almost taking all the guitars and kind of gluing them together a little bit more. And you can see how the compressor's working here. Oh, sorry. Let me only solo the acoustics. And I'm not going crazy with the compression either. You know, it's just very lightly kind of hitting on it. The next thing that I do in the bus for all the acoustic guitars is some frequency finding. So every now and then when you record stringed instruments, you'll get some really harsh frequencies. So let's take a listen to the acoustic guitars again. So let's completely reverse the removal of a frequency, and you can hear how harsh it sounds. So what I'm doing here is I'm essentially removing that frequency. And I'll do something called frequency scanning. So I'll go through, let's remember where this one's at, 1050. I'll go through the range and I'll search for these really, high-pitched, kind of annoying frequencies. Let's find another one. Well, there isn't too many except at 1050. You can see that one there. It's pretty painful. Anyways, I'll do some frequency finding, and I'll remove those from the mix. And where are we at? Okay. And you can see I've done some more here as well. Then finally, I will apply a limiter to the acoustic guitars. So basically allowing how loud that group of acoustic guitars can be in the mix, and setting a threshold for that. It's really just for volume purposes. And then finally, after that, I apply EQ to the guitar group. The acoustic guitar group. So I've taken a lot of the high end out here. Cool. So those are the acoustic guitars. Let's see. I think before we kind of move on from the acoustic guitars, I think something important to talk about is a concept of reverb. And, creating a space for the instruments to live in. So, for example, if you're in a real studio, you're typically recording in a large room. This large room is going to have some amount of reverb to it, or echo or delay to the room itself. So, for example, if you're in your own bedroom and you clap and there's nothing on the walls, there's nothing in the room, it's going to reverberate around. This same concept applies to recording studios when you're recording drums, when you're recording guitars, vocals. And, what makes a really good studio room good is how you record those instruments inside that room, and how you make the room, really the sound of the room work well in the mix. Now, when I'm recording music at my house and in my apartment, I don't have a room to work with per se. So the goal for me is to keep my room as dead as possible. And by dead, I mean no reverb, no echoes, no reflection of the sound off the walls. And I do this so I can actually artificially create it in my music program. So what I'll do is, for example, I'll take the group of acoustic guitars and I'll say, I want to assign you and send you out to another group. I want to send you to another bus. And the purpose of this bus is to only deal with reverb or the room. So if we look at the acoustic guitars here, there's this thing on the left called sends. So you can see on my channel for acoustic guitars, I am sending to bus 3 and I'm sending to bus 2. So if we go ahead and we look at bus 3 is called best room. Bus 2 is called hall. So I have taken my reverbs or the room I'm in or the reflection of the sound, and I've assigned them to room and hall. So let's take a listen to room real quick. So room, really, I think what you can see I'm getting at here is the room bus or the room group that I have created here is replicating what it's like to sit inside of that studio, of that room where all of the instruments are collectively brought together and being recorded as if it were in a real studio, right? Because again, if you're in a real studio, 9 times out of 10, all of the bandmates are in the same room together. They have a very cohesive, similar room sound to it. So this is me just kind of trying to replicate that. So let's take a listen again. It's almost like you've stumbled upon a studio of musicians playing and you're sitting inside of the room, but kind of, you're standing at the back of the room. And yeah, it's a cool perspective. Additionally with that, I have a concept of a hall. So think of like a large cathedral or a large hall. There's a lot more actual echo and long echo to it. It's not a small room that you're sitting in. It's more of a some sort of chamber or long delay of sound. So let's take a listen to that. So it adds some element of realness, some sort of element of a larger space that you're playing within. And mixed together with the room reverb, which is more of a close room where all the musicians are in, you get a really balanced kind of reverb, total overall sound. For example, let's listen to the song with the reverb and as it sounds, as normal. Now let's listen to it with no room or no hall, no reverb. Oh, sorry. I soloed them, I didn't mute them. All right, now I'm muting them. Verses on. So you can see when I stop the song, you hear a slight echo to it, right? But if I were to mute those, it's a little bit more dead. Right? There's not a lot of like tail off. Something like a reverb and room reverb and hall reverb, that's kind of stylistic preference to musicians. So some musicians love a lot of hall reverb or a lot of room on their track overall. Some people don't like any reverb or and they want their track to be dead or not have a lot of kind of ring out to it. But I apply this practice to all the instruments within my project. So, especially when it comes to drums, I'll even create my own drum room. So let's take a listen to drums. Drums in itself, can go to their own room. So here's snare. So for the snare reverb, I wanted kind of just kind of a quick, kind of snappy and wide, larger kind of room sound to it. So it's fun to kind of mess around and play with different reverbs. Cool. Let's see. I think what I want to get into now is let's step into the bass guitar a little bit. I think talking about the bass guitar and thinking about the bass guitar is fun. So much like with the acoustic guitars, we have our bass track here. Now, the thing about bass guitar is that I don't necessarily need to send it to a group or a bus of other bass guitars because I typically only have one bass guitar in the track. And this bass guitar is, for me, usually panned to the center, right? So let's take a listen to the bass. Sounds like a bass. We could pan it to the left. But for me, and for stylistic preference, I like to keep the bass guitar in the center. And, I think it just makes and adds for a more kind of full centered sound to your track. The first thing that I put in my bass guitar track is an EQ. I'm not cutting out as many low frequencies as I am with the acoustic guitar. So for the acoustic guitar, I'm cutting out from like 60 down. But for the bass, I'm keeping it around here. I don't really need any of these super low frequencies because you don't actually really get to hear those. Cool. So once I've seen, actually, let's take a listen. So we've got bass, and I can cut out some low frequencies. Or I can add them back. Nice. Cool bass guitar. Next thing I'm doing is I'm running it through an amp. So instead of recording my bass through my amp behind me and miking that up, I actually just record the bass guitar directly into my program. And this is the amp that I'm using. Additionally, I have compression on the bass guitar. So, kind of ducking the louder peaks of the audio track and kind of making them smaller and a little bit more uniform across the board. The last thing I want is for some of my picks, my strumming, to be a lot louder than other notes. So compression kind of handles the gluing of the track. I tend to go pretty heavy on the compression with bass guitar. So I've got 1 compressor, 2 compressor, 3 compressor, 4 compressor. Yeah, I've got 4 compressors. So I really like to kind of compress the hell out of the bass guitar. Additionally, I've got some kind of spread on it. So just kind of really like how wide is the bass guitar or how center is it? And then finally just some EQ, right? Some basic EQ once it's all said and done. For bass guitar, I don't typically send to any rooms or reverbs. If anything, I will send it to a room reverb to kind of make it sound like it's more inside of the room with the rest of the instruments, but I typically don't do that when it comes to kind of lower frequency instruments.
I finally fell asleep, then I found myself in your streets. Stuck in Annapolis. BKs, we got away.
Cool. That's the bass guitar. Bass guitar, I usually keep it pretty simple, pretty straightforward, really. All right. So once I've gone through the drums and the acoustic guitars, for me, it's typically time to move on to the electric guitars. I treat the electric guitars almost the exact same way as the acoustic guitars. So what I mean by that is I'll record them individually, and then I'll send them out to a group of electric guitars, and I'll apply effects on the group of electric guitars, and I'll apply effects on the individual tracks. And I'll also do multiple takes for the electric guitar. So here we've got 3 electric guitar tracks total. So let's take a listen to these.
Falling like that.
Cool. So right off the bat, I have one electric guitar that's panned to the right. And this is kind of my main rhythm electric guitar. I typically have one main electric guitar track. Additionally, I have another electric guitar track that's panned to the left, and this one comes in here. Yeah, those are the two main electric guitar tracks. Let's listen to the third accessory guitar track that I have here.
Yes, just a kid.
So you can see that electric guitar track has a little bit more gain and distortion to it. Again, just kind of amplifying the song in this part a little bit, giving this part of the song something else in the mix. Let's take a dive into an actual guitar track, electric guitar track channel. So here for the main electric guitar track, right off the bat, I've got a noise gate. What a noise gate does is when I'm not playing it, it'll actually mute the guitar track. So it doesn't look like that's happening too often, but right at the beginning, you can see I have some not playing. And take a look at the noise gate here. So you see briefly it closed and then it opened. So it's just kind of muting the audio when I'm not playing the guitar. Next, I'm running through an amp inside of Logic. So again, I'm not recording out through a real amp. And I'm just using the stock Logic amp. So pretty cool. Next, I'm sending my electric guitar through a virtual tape machine. So adding a little bit more saturation and a little bit more glue, and also a little bit more kind of flutter and wobbliness and, just kind of giving it a little bit more texture, really. And then after that, I'm running it through an EQ. So again, I'm taking out some low end, taking out a lot of mid right here on the 1K range. Directly following that, I have more compression here. So again, just kind of gluing the track a little bit. It's not a whole lot of compression though. After that, I have a limiter, which acts as, number one, how loud my electric guitar can get, but also raising the volume of it. Pretty cool. For the electric guitar, I am sending that, so I'm taking that as a whole, and I'm sending it out to 3 different areas in my mix. I'm sending it to bus 12. And what bus 12 does is it acts as a reverb for the left earphone only. So let's take a look at how I have this set up. My electric guitar track is panned to the right, and we can hear that here. It's in the right headphone. Bus 12 is being sent out, and it's reverb, but it's panned to the left. So let's actually just solo bus 12 and listen to it. Kind of barely hear it, but together, so it adds a little bit more dynamic to the song overall. Let's see what else I'm sending my electric guitar to. I'm sending it to bus 3. So bus 3, as we know and talked about with the acoustics, is my room. So I'm sending it to the main room of all my instruments. And then I'm also sending my electric guitar to bus 2, which is the hall. Cool. That's really it for the electric guitars. Right on. Let's see. I think before we get onto vocals, I think that we should kind of touch on some percussion. So along with the drums, I will add basic percussion if needed. So in this track, I've got tambourines, and I also have wind chimes, and I think that's it. So let's listen to the tambourine. So pretty cool. I handle the tambourine a lot like I handle all the other instruments. I'll send it through an EQ, and then I will send that out to. Actually, where is? So this is being sent out to bus 20. Where's bus 20 at? Am I blind? I don't know. Either way, I'm sending out the tambourine to some reverb, probably some compression, doing the typical things that I do with all the other tracks. And then we also have the chimes right at the end. So let's listen to those. So you can hear them right at the end. I'll solo out the chimes. Yeah, sounds real nice. Cool. That's it for percussion. I think finally now we can get into the vocals. I would say the vocals are probably the most involved part of me recording music, just because number one, they typically take the longest to record. Number two, they're the most difficult to mix in with the song. And number three, they're kind of the most upfront and center. So let's take a listen. So let's go over here to my main vocal folder. So how I attack vocals is I will have all of these other instruments for this song kind of built out, and then I will do 3 or 4 takes of just singing the song all the way through. Doing that allows me to get familiar with singing the song and kind of get used to and warmed up with singing the song from start to finish. I know some people approach vocals differently. They'll do sentence by sentence or bar by bar, and they'll make sure that every single vocal recording is perfect and exactly how they like it. Again, I do this a different way. I'll do 3 or 4 different takes, and I'll take the best sentences and bars from each take, and I'll put them into one take. So let's listen to the main vocal track here.
I didn't think I'd be falling like that. Innocence is bliss when you're falling that fast. In the summer with my brother.
So you can see here I only have one vocal track going, and you can hear that in the song as well.
Brothers, take me right back.
Just one. And then what I'll do is I'll actually go through and I will essentially pitch correct some. I'll go through and I'll pitch correct some of the lines. So you can see here I pitch corrected this sentence.
Back when we were young.
So it looks like I wanted to fix when.
When.
So yeah.
Back when we were young.
I try not to pitch correct a whole lot, but you can see here I've got some slight pitch correction going on. Not the best singer. Cool. Let's dive into the actual construction of the effect channel itself. So for vocals, I don't put anything on like its actual channel, and I do that because I know that I'm gonna have to have 2 tracks per one track. It's kind of complicated, but yeah, I essentially need to be able to take multiple audio tracks and send them to my main vocal track. And then I'll only edit the main vocal track. I'll only put effects as a whole for the main vocal on one track. So that track is bus 1. And we can see here bus 1, that vocal out. Oh no, bus 1 should be over here. Yeah. So bus 1, main vocals right here at the bottom. Again, I'll start off with EQ.
I didn't think.
I really always just take out low end first. Then what I'm doing is I'm sending it into a compressor.
I'd be falling like that.
I usually have the compressor working up around like -2. Then I go into another compressor.
Innocence is bliss when you're falling that fast.
This one takes off a little bit more. Some people do it the other way around, but yeah. And then I am going through EQ again, and I'm giving it a little bit of high end. So
in the summer with my brothers, take me right back.
So what this does is it gives it a little bit more breathiness and air to the vocals. So let's actually add more and see how it sounds.
I didn't think I'd be falling like that.
Yeah.
Innocence is bliss.
Pretty cool. Then I will put my vocals through, again, tape emulation software to kind of add saturation and a little bit more glue. I'll add even more compression, so another compressor. So now we're up to 3 or 4. Then I'll add a vocal rider. So a vocal rider makes sure that the actual volume of my vocals stays relatively consistent across the whole track. So you can see that here.
I didn't think I'd be falling like that.
So that's almost as if I were just down here in the actual leveler, the volume fader, and like manually doing it. But instead of manually doing it, you can get a program that does it for you. Finally, after the vocal rider, I've got a 5th compressor, believe it or not.
Innocence is bliss when you're falling that fast.
And that one I slam. I go crazy with it. So I'm a big fan of heavy compression on the vocals, getting, every single piece of vocal frequency out of it that you can get. After that, I send to my reverbs like we talked about. I send the vocals to my room reverb. I'll send the vocals to my hall reverb, and I'll actually put a little bit more hall reverb on the vocals than the rest of my tracks. So let's take a listen.
In the summer with my brothers, take me right back.
So let's hear vocal by itself, and we'll increase the hall reverb and see how that sounds. So, well, let me find which one was it. Hall reverb is 2. So we'll increase the volume of bus 2.
Stuck in a loop, thinking of you. Still in my head, the words that you said. Finally fell asleep, then I found myself.
So yeah, that's how I mix my vocals. Now let's go into the harmonies. So harmonies are a lot of fun. So again, I put harmonies in their own folder. They have their own group assigned to them. And yes, let's take a listen to the harmonies here for the pre-chorus.
Back when we were young,
And
we used to sing those songs. Stuck in a loop, thinking of you. Still in my head, the words that you said. Finally fell asleep, then I found myself in your streets. Oh, I was just stuck here.
so harmonies are fun. I usually have 3 or 4 layers of harmonies. So let's go through them here now. So first off, I have the chorus harmony center.
Back when we were young,
So this is just the bass line harmony.
stuck in a loop,
Then I'll add one to the right.
thinking of you.
Then I'll add one to the left.
Still in my head, the words that you said. I finally fell asleep.
So you can kind of see how I start to build up some of these harmonies. And I'll add harmonies for, interesting parts of the track here, like
Back when we were young,
I guess it's not that in string, but anyways, moving on from harmonies, I have accessory vocals and accessory harmonies. So these are vocals that are, more so just kind of like ad libs or funny effects. So you can see here, I've got one called We Got Away, and that sounds like this.
We got away.
And that plays here in the song.
BKs, we got away.
Along with those, I've got a telephone effect here in the track. So let's solo that out.
Hello?
And that's in this part of the song.
Locked my cell line. Hello? I circle back.
So it's pretty cool.
Hello?
And then I also have a phone hanging up sound here. And a dial tone directly after it. So all together with the hello and the phone.
Hello?
And in the song.
Locked my cell line. Hello? I circle back, won't forget it.
So pretty cool stuff. It's fun to do accessories and, cool stuff like that. Every now and then I'll kind of add some also additional harmonies throughout the track that aren't the main harmonies. So you can see here I've got some harmonies for Circled Back. They're not really harmonies, it's just me singing the same thing 2 extra times.
I circled back, won't forget about it. All I wanna do is sing about it.
So that's pretty cool.
I circled back, won't forget about it. All I wanna do is sing about it.
So I've got a lot of effects going on with those, a lot of tape saturation and just making it sound interesting, really. And then right at the end, we have some more harmonies with the end chorus.
Oh, I was just a kid. Yes, I was just a kid. Yes, I was just a kid. I was just a kid.
So you don't really hear that when you're first listening to the track, but let's actually turn up those harmonies in the track.
A kid. Yes, I was just a kid. I was just.
So it's pretty cool. Okay, I think that's it for the vocals and kind of going through how I mixed the vocals and how I recorded them. I really think all that's left here is the overall mix of the song, but let's do a double take. Let's make sure I didn't miss anything here. We went over vocals, main harmonies. We went through the extra vocals, the accessory vocals, the electric guitars. Oh, we also have some strings going on in the song in the chorus. Pretty cool.
Words that you said, I finally fell asleep, and I found myself in your streets. Oh, I was just.
Right on. So that's the song. Now, as a whole, we can start to think about how we want the song to sound. And that's where mastering comes in. So for the entire song, for all the tracks, I'll definitely put another compressor on it. I'll put an SSL compressor.
Just a kid. Annapolis.
And I have that around -3. To some people, that might be too much. To me, I thought it sounded nice on the song. I'll also do a limiter. So what's the actual full, how loud can the song be? So this is telling me how loud the song is. You can see we're at -9, -10. And then this is my limiter, which is telling me or allowing me to decide how loud the song will be. And then I have an EQ on the track as a whole.
Stuck in a loop.
Now, when I'm mixing and I'm doing the final mix for the entire song, the final master, I always have an analyzer open just to see how it's actually looking from a metering perspective.
Thinking of you.
So this shows me
Still in my
how loud the low end is, how loud the high end
words that
is.
you said.
And this is showing me
Finally
what it looks like as if this is my brain right here, and my ears are right here. And this is kind of like how it sounds.
fell asleep. Then I found myself.
So like if we only took an acoustic guitar that was on the left and we soloed that, you can see it's going more towards the left, right? Like when you're listening to it and you're right now, it's in your left headphone right here. The right one, it's going here. Together, they're kind of center. And this is the full song.
Caroline is doing just fine. She blocked my cell line. Hello?
Pretty cool stuff. Let's listen to the track. Let's give it one last listen through. Thank you guys. If you've made it this far, if you've watched this much of the video, thank you for going through this journey with me. And yeah, I always find this stuff kind of interesting, and I love audio engineering and building songs. I don't know if this is the right way. I don't know if it's, this is just how I do it. So yeah, thanks for watching. Let's give it a listen.